Hi, fifth graders. So here we are in week 20 of our remote learning, and we are up to module 6, lesson 1. It starts on page 129. So if you could please get that packet of paper out. We're going to be doing right now just module 6, lesson 1. So I would like you to follow along in your paperwork, and then when you are finished, you will have to do the black and white independent worksheet, so that way I can, and then turn it into me so that way I can see how you're doing. So we're going to start with representing fractions, sums, and differences. So when you're done, you'll be able to make a visual model to represent the addition or subtraction of fractions with different sized parts. So 4 hikers travel along the same trail over 2 days. The fraction of the trail each hiker travels is shown. So we can see that Alexi on day 1 travels half the trail, and on day 2 travels 1/12 of the trail. Rachel day 1, 2/5. Day 2, 1/10. James day 1, 1/2. Day 2, 1/4. Jayla day 1, 1/2. And day 2, 3/8. So we're going to use the data in the table to show 2 ways to represent the fraction of the trail one of the hikers travels on both days. So let's look at James. We're going to start with him. So if we had one hole, all right, if we used a bar model, to model the fractions, and this was one hole, on day 1, how far would he have traveled? Day 1, he would have traveled half of our model, right? And then on day 2, he travels 1/4. Well, 1/4, isn't 1/4 a half of a half? So then this would be 1/4. So that would be what he traveled in 2 days. Another way we could represent it is if we want to try to figure out how could I represent 1/2 with 1/4, couldn't I break this up? If I were to multiply my denominators to find a common denominator, 1/4 times 1/2 would equal 1/8, right? So couldn't I break this up into eighths? So then this would have our fourths, our eighths. So each piece would be 1/8. So how many eighths did James walk in 2 days? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths in 2 days. Okay, so those are a couple of ways that we could represent how much James walked or hiked while he was out traveling. So we have Marley. Marley and Jackie saved together to buy a tent for their camping trip. Marley saves 3/8 of the cost of the tent. Jackie saves 1/2 of the cost of the tent. How much do Marley and Jackie save toward the cost of the tent? How could we represent this situation? Well, we know here's the cost of the tent, right? This is how much one tent will cost. Jackie has saved 1/2. Marley has saved 3/8. So if I were to take my one whole and divide it into 2 halves, this is how much Jackie has saved, right? She saved 1/2 of it. Marley, we need to take our one whole and we're going to separate it into eighths. Right? And Marley saved 3 of those eighths. So this is Marley. Well, I already labeled it. This is how much Marley saved. This is how much Jackie saved. Right? So we need to figure out how much they have left to purchase. So we're going to need to figure out how can we combine 3/8 and 1/2 so we can find how much Marley and Jackie save. Well, can't I take my halves and make those into eighths as well? So if I take my whole and I have my halves, look at, couldn't I take that half and break it up into eighths as well? So then Jackie has 4/8 and Marley has 3/8. So then we can see how much. So we changed Jackie into 4/8. So that's how much we can, then you can add them together. Because they have a common denominator. So 3/8 plus 4/8 equals 7/8. So they have saved 7/8. How much money do they have to still save now? So we would do 8/8 minus 7/8. So they still need 1/8 of the money, 1/8 of the cost of the tent. But they're pretty close, right? They have most of what they need to purchase the tent. Pedro takes a 1/2 pound bag of trail mix on his hike. During the hike, he eats 1/4 pound of the trail mix. How much trail mix does he have left? How can you use fraction strips to represent the situation? Draw to show your thinking. Okay, so here we've got our full bag, right? This is our full bag. He only takes a 1/2 pound bag. So he's only going to take half of that. I actually want to use a pencil to shoot it in because I think that will, you'll be able to see that. And then instead of doing the so this is how much he takes, right? He eats 1/4 of it. So that means I need to take this, and now instead of having it in halves, I need to break it up into fourths. So he eats 1/4 of it. What size fraction strip pieces can you use to represent the amount of trail mix he has left? Well, we could use 1/4, right? Of a strip. So that means 1/2, which is the same as 2/4, minus 1/4 equals, so he still has 1/4 pound left. Because you're going to see how you can make this into now 2 pieces. So that's 2/4. And this is 1/4, so 2/4 minus 1/4 equals 1/4 pounds. Alrighty, so we're going to check for understanding. Claudia starts at the nature center and walks 1/2 mile along a trail to this signpost. How far is the waterfall from the nature center? So the waterfall is 1/12 of a mile. Okay, so here's our whole mile. Okay, right, there's our whole mile. And if we break this up into 12ths, so I would do it in the middle and then 6 over here. So here's our 1/12 of a mile. Claudia starts at the nature center and walks 1/2 mile along a trail to this signpost. How far is the waterfall from the nature center? So now she walks half a mile. So we're going to split this in half. She walks half a mile. When she gets to the signpost, she sees that the waterfall is still 1/12 of a mile. So we would need to have a 1/2 plus a 1/12. Well, how's that going to work? We need to have common denominators. So couldn't I take my half and also break that up into twelfths? So if I break my half up into twelfths, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 twelfths. So is it 1/2 the same as 6 twelfths? So she already walked 6 twelfths of a mile, and she still has 1/12 of a mile to go. 6 twelfths plus 1/12 equals 7 twelfths. So the distance from the nature center to the waterfall is 7 twelfths of a mile. So we have to take our fractions that don't have the same denominators and figure out a way that we can make them the same. All right, so we're on your own section. If you want to do this part independently and then come back and check your answers, just pause the video, go do the work, and then come back and check your answer, or stay right with me and follow along if you're still kind of unsure. So Luna hammers a stake into the ground for her tent. The stake is 7/8 foot long. She hammers the stake 3/4 foot into the ground. How long is the part of the stake that is above the ground? So here's our hole. The stake itself is 7/8. So I need to take my hole and break it up into eighths. So I know that my eighths, if I go in half, each side would need 4. So here's my, and you want 7 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is how long the stake is. And then she hammers the stake into the ground, and it goes in 3/4 of a foot into the ground. So she is talking about 3/4 of a foot. So 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So it goes in these 3. Look at this is equal right here, right? So how much would be sticking out above the ground? We can see it right here, this one piece. So 1/8 would be sticking out above the ground. So how could we do this as a problem? Well, we can see that 3/4 is the same as, look at 2/8 are in each of our 1/4. So if that's the case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths is the same as 3/4. So couldn't we have our stake is 7/8 feet long minus our 6/8 that went into the ground, so that equals 1/8 foot that's still sticking out above the ground. Number 3. Ooh, we're gonna skip number 4. Tyler's cell phone has 7/10 of its charge left at the start of his hike and 1/5 at the end. How much of the phone's charge is used during the hike? Okay. So here's our hole, right? And we're going to break it up into tenths. So I'm going to go in half, and I'm going to have 5 on each side. And 7 of these will be shaded in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now each one of these is equals 1/10. I'm just showing you. So this is what at the start. At the end of his hike, he only has 1/5 left. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to split it in half. Oh wait, no, this one would not be split in half. I'm sorry. Just a second. My bad. Pause. Pause for a minute right now. Okay. Just kidding. We're not going to go right in half because it's 5. It's an odd number. So 4, 5. There we go. So end, he only has 1/5 left. So how much did he use? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can see that it's 5/10 of his phone charge he used during the hike. So this tells me that he had started with 7/10. We subtract 1/5 is the same as 2/10. So we subtract 2/10. So that equals 5/10. So he has 5/10 of the charge left at the end of the hike. So I'm going to have you, you don't need to do number 4 here on your own part. I am going to have you do the more practice homework page, the black and white sheet. I would like you to do the front and the back. And when you are finished, I need you to either take a picture of it and attach it to this assignment, or drop the paper off at school so that way I can grade it and see how you're doing with fractions. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.